Welcome to the Outside World, YouTube's #1 discovery channel. Today, we delve into the complex reality of Yemen, a nation of pristine beauty, but mired in a deep crisis. Located at the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, Yemen is a country of vast deserts and a long coastline, with enormous tourism potential. However, persistent internal conflicts have stalled its development. Currently, Yemen barely receives any tourists due to the violence and instability that show no signs of abating. Flights are nearly impossible, and this difficult situation has severely impacted the lives of its people. More than 80% of the Yemeni population is in need of urgent assistance. Yemen's history is fraught with turbulence. About 200 years ago, it was part of the Ottoman Empire, but its control was never entirely firm. In the mid-19th century, the British intervened, inciting rebellions and helping the Arabs separate Yemen from the Ottoman. After World War I, Yemen ceased to be part of the Ottoman Empire. However, divisions among the Arab tribes prevented the country from achieving unity, plunging it into constant power struggles. In 2011, the Arab Spring plunged Yemen into a deep political crisis, leading to the collapse of the government. Since then, Yemen has faced instability, corruption, and unresolved difficulties. Despite the hope for change, no strong leader has emerged to transform the situation. Because of this, today, international organizations such as the United Kingdom and the United Nations can easily intervene in Yemen's internal affairs, further complicating its already delicate situation. Now, let's talk about the sad fate of Yemeni women. Known for their captivating beauty, their deep, mysterious eyes peeking out from behind their veils capture attention wherever they go. But beyond their gentle appearance, they stand out for their resilience, patience, and selflessness, qualities forged over generations in a society plagued by injustice. However, behind these admirable traits lies a harsh reality. In Yemen, women live under the strict limitations of a deeply patriarchal society. They barely have a voice, rarely appear in public, and most of their lives are spent confined within the four walls of their homes. In some regions, they are not allowed to drive, cannot work independently, and whenever they go out, they must be accompanied by a male guardian called a maharam. Although, to be fair, this isn't entirely negative in all contexts. Mark, an adventure traveler, reflected on this. At first, he found it strange and restrictive, but the more he explored Yemen, the more he realized how important this role was in such a dangerous country. What do you think about this? Leave your comments below. In many cases, women don't have the right to protest, let alone seek a divorce. Domestic violence is on the rise. Even in public, men often interact with Yemeni women without restraint. Furthermore, because many men disappear or are sent to war, women are forced to support their families. However, they lack legal or economic rights. This means they often have to do manual labor, beg, or even accept sensitive jobs just to survive. Tragically, more than 2 million children, mostly girls, have had to drop out of school due to the war. Daughters are often the first to be removed from school to help at home or to be married off. Child marriage is a serious problem in Yemen, especially in the poorest regions. Many families marry off their daughters when they are still very young, teenagers, or even minors, as a way to ease their financial burden. Another heartbreaking reality is that many Yemeni women are subjected to female genital mutilation at birth, a traditional custom that causes serious health complications and is a violation of human rights. These are silent pains that Yemeni women endure their entire lives, not only physically, but also emotionally and in terms of their human dignity. Now, let's talk about polygamy. Do you find it fascinating that men can marry up to 4 wives at a time, to the point that you might want to move to Yemen? Well, don't get too excited. While polygamy is permitted for men in Yemen, the reality is that it's not that common. Because of the harsh economic conditions and high cost of living, a man with 4 wives must treat them all equally in love, finances, and living conditions. But with the country mired in an economic crisis and ongoing conflict, most Yemenis simply can't afford to support multiple families. Furthermore, the pressure to treat multiple wives fairly is nearly impossible, often leading to jealousy and conflict within the household. For Yemeni women, who already have limited rights in a patriarchal society, it's even worse in polygamous families, especially if they don't have a son, who is the key to a woman's status in the home. Although polygamy remains part of Yemeni tradition, more and more young people, especially in the cities, are not supportive of this type of marriage, influenced by modern education and global media. Unlike other Muslim countries such as Tunisia or Jordan, which have restricted or banned polygamy, Yemen still clings to its ancient customs. And what about Yemeni women? Absolutely not. In Yemen, as in most Muslim countries that follow Sharia law, women are not allowed to have multiple husbands. This is a deeply rooted religious and cultural rule that reflects a patriarchal system where power and decision-making rest primarily with men. The head of the household is always the oldest male, who makes all important family decisions. Most marriages are arranged and take place at a young age. Although the bride and groom are free to express their opinions, the final decision is made by the family patriarch. Having a child is one of the most important events in a woman's life in Yemen. What is the biggest milestone in your life? Getting into a prestigious university, buying a large house, or marrying your soulmate? In Yemen, the most important event is having a child. Seriously, having a child is considered the greatest achievement for a woman, even more so than love, education, or a career. Women play a secondary role in managing the household and raising children. In rural areas, they primarily help with family farm work. In a strongly patriarchal Muslim society like Yemen, having a child means continuing the family line, providing security in old age, upholding family honor, and determining the mother's social value. According to a UNFPA survey, nearly a quarter of Yemeni women work outside the home, but most of them still believe that having a child gives them more say in their family, especially with their husband and mother. If a woman doesn't have a son, she is often scorned, or her husband might even take another wife to find someone to continue the lineage. Ironically, it is men who determine the baby's gender, but the blame always falls on the woman. The second most important event after having a child is the initiation ceremony for boys, called Khitom, which usually takes place during special occasions like Eid in Yemen, as in many Muslim countries, such as Egypt, Sudan, or Saudi Arabia. This is almost mandatory, both religiously and socially. Clearly, the most significant events in Yemeni society are linked to a childless gender, rather worrying reality when you realize that boys are expected to become protectors of their family and country from the moment they are born. Daily life for most Yemenis today is a struggle for survival. More than 80% of the population, around 24 million people, need urgent humanitarian assistance. More than 60% are trying to survive on less than $1 a day. The UN calls Yemen the world's worst humanitarian crisis, with millions of people forced from their homes, living in makeshift refugee camps under terrible conditions, without food, water, medical care, or basic supplies. Corruption, the absence of a strong government, and deep internal divisions have plunged Yemen into even greater chaos. In fact, it is considered the most dangerous country in the world. Some areas are completely isolated, looting is rampant, and some cities have been abandoned after intense fighting. To protect themselves, many people, including tour guides, carry weapons whenever they go out. Kidnapping is a constant fear, and no one can predict what could happen at any moment. Amid all this chaos, most Yemenis just hope for a decent meal. Despite the difficulties, men here still desire more children, believing that the more they have, the more blessed they will be. Most families have 6 or 7 children, while the parents are generally unable to adequately support them. Tragically, Yemeni children are the most affected. Many cannot go to school, let alone access any kind of technology. They live in poverty, hungry, lacking even the most basic necessities. Their happiest moments are receiving a gift from a stranger or playing Socotra, only real source of joy they have. For girls, life is even harder. Many have to fetch water for their families from far away. It's heartbreaking. 40% of Yemen's population is under the age of 15, painting a bleak picture for the future. We continue our journey through Yemen, exploring its traditions and peculiarities. If you travel to Yemen, you will be struck by the fact that almost all adult men carry a curved dagger on their belt, attached to a brightly hand-embroidered sash. This is the jambia. It is not really a weapon for fighting, but a profound cultural symbol. Many men go their entire lives without drawing the blade. Simply wearing it says it all. It speaks of honor, courage, and a man's roots as a Each jambia is an heirloom passed down from father to son, like a family name and family dignity. The hilt expresses personality. Some use plain wood, others choose horn, brass, even gold and silver, depending on local tradition. The scabbard is often intricately carved, reflecting family and regional identity. The blade, usually made of hand-forged steel, is sharp, but more a reminder of heritage than a weapon. You'll see jambias at important occasions, weddings, tribal ceremonies, and traditional dances in village squares. When Yemenis dance with their jambia, it's not just for show. It's a way of saying to their ancestors, we remember. Even as times change, with phones replacing texting, cars replacing camels, the jambia is still worn proudly, never out of simple custom, but because it represents identity. For a nation, to lose its identity means to lose its way. There is a deeply rooted cultural tradition in Yemen's daily life. Chewing cat. For many Yemenis, cat is not just a habit. It is part of their national identity, a social glue, and even a spiritual ritual. Kata plant containing a mild stimulant called katanon is chewed daily by millions of people, from workers to politicians and intellectuals. In the evenings, as the heat subsides, the entire country seems to slow down. Groups gather in homes, courtyards, even at work, to chew, cat, chat, debate, or simply relax. Visit any cat market and you'll see people moving around in a daze, as if living in another world. But behind the tradition lies a host of problems. Cat cultivation consumes a huge portion of Yemen's already scarce water supply. Yemen is one of the countries facing the worst water crisis on the planet. Farmers abandon food crops for cat because it is more profitable, so most food must be imported. Regarding health, cat can cause insomnia, loss of appetite, and heart problems, especially with long-term use. Yemen's youth are increasingly drawn to this addictive lifestyle, as cat becomes a rite of passage into adulthood. Even so, quitting cat is easier said than done. If you're near these areas, you should exercise caution. This plant is highly addictive, and once you start, it's hard to stop. Some people even line up for hours just to buy cat. Despite Yemen's extreme hardships, cat remains widespread and deeply embedded in daily life. Chewing cat is both a cultural identity and a social challenge. The history of cat in Yemen is not just about tradition. It reflects the nation's struggles, caught between clinging to the past and forging a new future. Do you find this Yemeni habit interesting? Do you wish everyone around you were always as happy as Yemenis seem? Write 1 if you agree, or 2 if you disagree in the comments. In Yemen, a nation rich in tradition and religion, marriage is not just the union of two people, but a reflection of family structure, honor, and tribal power. In this context, marriages between cousins, especially between paternal first cousins, are very common and widely accepted. It's not uncommon. It's a cultural practice passed down through generations. Most Yemeni marriages are arranged, often when the children are still very young. The decision is rarely made by the bride and groom, but by the family patriarch, usually the father or grandfather. This is not only for social stability, but also to maintain wealth and pure bloodlines within the extended family. For many Yemeni families, marrying a relative is safe and secure. You already know their character, background, and family history. Weddings are also linked to the custom of a mocha, a sum of money or property that the groom's family gives to the bride, espanil, as a sign of respect and commitment. Interestingly, even in this conservative society, divorce is not considered as shameful as in many other Muslim countries, demonstrating a certain flexibility in Yemen's Islamic culture. But the prevalence of cousin marriage is worrying health experts and social commentators. Genetic, reproductive, and intellectual disabilities in future generations are the subject of increasing public debate. And as Yemen faces increasing globalization and awareness, it finds itself at a crossroads. Cling to tradition or begin making changes to keep up with science and human rights. Forget the United States, the United Kingdom, or Dubai. The world's first skyscraper city is actually the ancient city of Shibam in Yemen, located right in the Hadramaut Desert. Built primarily in the 16th century with roots thousands of years deeper, Shibam is notable for its more than 500 mud brick towers, each 5 to 11 stories tall. It's one of the rare and shining examples of pre-modern vertical urban planning, a concept that totally predated today's skyscrapers. Often called the Manhattan of the desert or the Chicago of the ancient Middle East, Shibam is living proof of the resilience and creativity of Arab civilization, right in the middle of an unforgiving desert where you'd least expect sustainable human life. The miracle of Shibam isn't high technology, but local genius. People built sturdy skyscrapers from natural materials like clay, thatch, and palm wood, insulating against the heat, keeping cool and saving space. Thick walls, tiny windows, and dense construction created a comfortable microclimate in the harshest environment. Shibam's buildings weren't just homes, they were fortresses. The crowded towers, surrounded by city walls, protected residents from marauding tribes. Each tower housed several generations, something like an ancient Islamic tribal apartment complex. Today's skyscrapers, like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai or One World Trade Center in New York, rise hundreds of meters with steel, glass, and cutting-edge technology. But Shibam stands as a symbol of sustainable, handcrafted skyscraper design. It may not be that tall, but conceptually, by using height to save space and support communities in dense areas, Shibam has incredible parallels with modern cities. Now, Shibam is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, not only for its history, but for its architectural significance as a model of sustainable urban planning using local materials. In an era of climate change and over-urbanization, Shibam is a source of inspiration for smart, natural, and harmonious construction. The journey to Yemen is not easy. You won't be able to fly directly due to the lack of international air connections. Instead, you'll have to fly to Oman, a neighboring country. The city of Salalah in eastern Oman is the closest border crossing to Yemen and has an airport. From there, you'll need to drive a long distance of 33 kilometers, which takes about 2 hours. Along this road, the landscape is quite desolate, with only narrow paved roads, and you'll rarely encounter any living creatures, except for a few wandering camels in the dry, grassy fields. After a 2-hour drive, you'll reach the Yemeni border. There, you'll encounter Somali soldiers who will stop you and question you about your reason for entering Yemen. They'll warn you that it's a very dangerous area. After a brief interrogation, you'll easily pass through and enter Yemen. as the Yemeni border is almost unprotected. Entry into Yemen via the northern border with Saudi Arabia is impossible, as major cities like the capital Sana'a are located in the western region, where instability and tribal conflicts are constant. Therefore, the only way into Yemen is via the eastern border, which is less populated and more accessible. However, you will need a press card and special access granted by authorized organizations. When you enter Yemen via the eastern border, a sight will immediately strike you. Severely decayed and dilapidated buildings. The surrounding space is quiet, with only the occasional shadow of people passing by. It feels like you're entering another world, where it's not the year 2024, but a completely different era. The sky is covered with dark clouds, which blend with the pale blue hue of the distant sea. You walk along a dirt road where sand and gravel blend, giving the impression that you're lost on a distant planet. The once famous coastline is now abandoned. Small pits appear among the sand, traces of days gone by. The people of Yemen avoid this place, letting these beaches become a haven for wildlife. Crabs have dug small holes in the sand, making them their new homes. But not all sea creatures are so fortunate. Some are washed ashore and lie motionless on the sand, hopeless. As you venture further inland, signs of civilization begin to appear. Makeshift shops open, people hurry by, and vehicles occasionally pass by. However, the streets are dusty and littered with trash. The signs on the buildings are worn, as if decades have passed without significant change. The atmosphere here feels as if it has been a long time since the freshness of newly constructed buildings arrived. This image truly reflects a country in decline, where the signs of development seem to have been completely forgotten. Now, let's turn our attention to one of Yemen's most unique gems, the Socotra Archipelago. If the Manhattan of the desert is a test of human ingenuity, Socotra is a challenge from Mother Nature, a mini planet right here on Earth. Socotra, a group of Yemeni islands between the Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea, is called the Galapagos of the Middle East. For its unique ecosystem, more than a third of its plant and animal species are found nowhere else on the planet. One of Socotra's most famous native species is the dragon's blood tree, with its wild shape like a giant mushroom or an inverted umbrella. Its thick red sap was once used in folk medicine and ancient religious rituals. Socotra isn't just about strange plants. The animal life is unique as well. The islands are home to more than 10 endemic bird species, including the Socotra starling, the Socotra sunbird, and the Socotra warbler with distinctive appearances and songs, often found only in the island's dragon blood forests, or high mountains. Landscape-wise, the island is surreal. From limestone mountains and rocky deserts, to white sand dunes and otherworldly forests. It's like a science fiction movie set. That's why UNESCO declared Socotra a World Biosphere Reserve in 2008, not just for its biology, but for its global ecological importance. In addition to all that, the people of Socotra contribute to the island's uniqueness. They speak their own language, Sotri, an ancient Semitic language that can't even be written in the standard Arabic alphabet. Thanks to their isolation, they maintain traditional semi-nomadic ways of life, living in close harmony with nature. But Socotra's wonders are threatened by climate change, unsustainable tourism, and the political instability of mainland Yemen. Still, Socotra stands as a vibrant testament to Earth's richness, a mini-planet surviving in the middle of the Indian Ocean, where the planet's ancient diversity can still be seen alive and well. For coffee lovers, have you ever wondered what mocha means and where it comes from? The answer is Yemen. From the 15th to the 18th century, Yemen was not only a coffee-growing country, but the heart of the coffee world. At the port of Mocha, on the Red Sea, sacks of Arabica coffee were loaded onto wooden ships bound for the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. The name mocha. Originally, the name of the port became permanently linked to a special type of coffee from this region. But here's the kicker. Real mocha has nothing to do with chocolate. That chocolatey note you taste in a modern mocha comes naturally from the coffee bean itself. It's slightly acidic, slightly bittersweet, and when you leave it in your mouth, it melts like cocoa. No added flavors, just pure coffee, straight from nature. Today, the port of Mocha is no longer as busy. The ships have left, but the name mocha still resonates in coffee cups around the world. For coffee enthusiasts, the journey doesn't end at the local coffee shop. They trace it back to the rugged highlands of Yemen, with its perfect altitude, harsh climate, and mineral-rich, red soil-unique conditions no other coffee-growing region can replicate. That's why mocha isn't just a menu item. It's a piece of history, the tale of a golden age when a small land like Yemen could enchant the entire world with a single steaming cup of coffee. Despite the difficulties, Yemenis have never lost hope in their country. They believe that one day Yemen will be known not for its chaos, but for its pristine beaches, majestic mountains, and wild desert adventures. However little they have, Yemenis are willing to share. They keep smiling and are always warm and welcoming to visitors. But challenges remain. Yemen needs a new generation of leaders, talented people who act for the common good, not for personal gain. Will Yemen have the opportunity to truly change in the next 10 years? Or will it be forever plunged into the darkness of corruption and conflict? Leave your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.